Meeting of the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners is now called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Fretham.
Here.
Modis Castillo.
Here.
McDonough.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Here.
Carter.
Here. Thank you very much. Commissioner Ortega, would you please, while we all mute, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, Madam Chair. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. The agenda of our June 16th board meeting is presented for your approval. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on the agenda? Please call the roll.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Fretham.
Aye.
Modis Castillo.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye. Thank you very much. The agenda has passed, and now the minutes of our June 9th meeting are before us. Is there a motion?
So moved.
There's a motion.
Second.
There is a second. Is there any discussion? Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Fretham.
Aye.
Modis Castillo.
Aye.
McDonough.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye. And thank you very much. Those minutes have passed. We're honored in this board meeting before our COVID-19 update so that we don't keep people waiting for this to be able to present a award in recognition of years of service with Ramsey County. This award is being presented to Jeff Stevenson, who is the director of the Civil Division of the Ramsey County Attorney's Office. Is Jeff here with us?
I am, Madam Chair.
Thank you. It would be great to see you also on our screen, Jeff, as we present this award and recognition to you. Thank you so very much. As Jeff walks in, and I know that we have something there for you also, and that should be getting ready to be presented, I just want to share these thoughts. Jeff, in recognition of your many years with us, I'd like to share with all who are watching today information about your time with us and the work that you've done with us. As we say, a very special thank you for all. So on June 30th of 2020, Jeff, our Civil Division Director of the County Attorney's Office, is going to be retiring from our county after over 43 years of dedicated public service, with the last 22 of those years having been spent as an attorney in the Ramsey County Attorney's Office. Jeff is proud to say, I understand, that he has been a lifelong resident of our county. He was born, raised, and educated in St. Paul before moving to northern Ramsey County after becoming an attorney. So all of us have gotten to share you, Jeff, and thanks for that. He completed his undergraduate studies at the University of Minnesota and law school at the William Mitchell School of Law. Jeff began his career as an attorney in 1977, hired by then City Attorney Harriet Lansing as a prosecutor with the St. Paul City Attorney's Office. And in 1983, Jeff left the City Attorney's Office for private practice, where he began his focus on employment law. In 1998, the call to public service beckoned again, and Jeff accepted a real job with the Ramsey County Attorney's Office as an employment attorney. Jeff describes his time as the county employment law attorney as the best job any attorney could have. And after serving 2 separate stints as the interim Civil Division Director in 2012 following the judicial appointment of Phil Carruthers to the Hennepin County District Court bench, and again in 2014, following Kyle Thomas's return to corporate counsel status. The interim designation was last removed from his job status in 2015 when he was appointed by John Choi to serve as the director of the Civil Division. So outside of the office, during his free time, Jeff and his wife Sheila are the proud parents of their 2 adult children, Brian and Sarah. And I guess you're that even during your occupied time as well. And the proud grandparents of their 2 grandchildren, Simone, who's age 3.5, and Mara, who is 5 weeks old. Jeff and Sheila are also the caregivers of 2 rescue dogs, a black coat retriever named Allie and a yellow lab named Zelda. In retirement, Jeff and Sheila are going to be spending more time with their growing family, and they'll be enjoying more traveling opportunities. Jeff will also continue his quest to try to be a serious golfer, as well as volunteering as an usher at athletic events at his college alma mater, the University of Minnesota. So for those who've had the privilege of working with Jeff over the years, it's great, we appreciate his wise legal counsel and how it's informed by his understanding of our mission and our vision and our goals at Ramsey County. And above all, by the kind and respectful and compassionate manner in which Jeff's advice is presented to all of us. Jeff, we congratulate you as you retire, and we just commend you also for your many years of public service. And we wish you and your family the very best in your retirement. Thank you so much. I know there's a round of applause and probably also a few comments from board members. Thank you so much, Jeff, for your service. I think that I should ask you first if you have some comments, Jeff, and then we'll go around and share our thoughts with you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, this is entirely unnecessary and very much appreciated. The remarks you made, I imagine I have some idea where they came from, and so I will thank my colleague who may have shared that with you. Really, the only thing I want to say is that this role that I'm in and my time with our office has really been, to quote a recently departed president from the school that my son attended, the greatest privilege of my professional life. It's been just a tremendous time to work with all of the members of the board, all of the managers and folks around the county, everybody in our office, starting with our county attorney and the first assistant and chief deputy, to all of the lawyers in the office who are then helping all of the departments and agencies around the county do the important work that they do. And it's just been, you couldn't ask for a better career, and it's one of the reasons why I've always enjoyed so much doing the on-campus interviewing and working with summer law clerks, trying to convince them of the wisdom of my point of view. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jeff. Before we turn to our commissioners for comments, I know there's someone standing there by you and a special presentation for you. County Manager, are you there? Is there someone there?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I presented the award to Jeff from a safe and appropriate social distance. Jeff, could you hold the award so that they can, we'll have Jeff hold the award so that you can all see it here in a second. There it is. And Jeff, thank you on behalf of all of Ramsey County. You've been always someone who brings a sense of calm and a willingness to try and find ways to get to yes, and also recognize that we work together day after day, and kindness does need to be a part of how we do this work. I greatly appreciate it and have appreciated knowing you these past 7 or 8 years while you've been at Ramsey County. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you so much. It's a little difficult to see what all is going on there, but I wanted to make sure that you had that in your hand and realize that it is a special celebration of you, a plexiglass representation etched with the Ramsey County Courthouse, where you've spent so much of your time and have dedicated so much of your career. So thank you so very much, Jeff.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to turn to board members who may, in fact, have thoughts to share with you. I'm looking at our participant list, and I'll call on Commissioner Victoria Reinhardt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeff, I just want to say how much I have enjoyed our friendship, and when we've been working on different cases, and always the thoughtful responses that you get, that you provide to us as a board and as to individuals, especially when we're going into a mediation of some kind. And so I just really appreciate your quick wit and your patience and and really wonderful advice. So I wish you all the best, and I just wanted to say thank you. And I know we all will miss you very much, but you know, spending time with family and traveling sounds great. So congratulations and thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Fretham.
Jeff, I just wanted to thank you for being a good seat neighbor at the board meetings, and that I've missed my neighbor over the last few weeks. So good luck to you, and I look forward to continuing to hear from you as a constituent. So be in touch.
Thanks, Commissioner Fretham.
Thank you, Commissioner Fretham. Commissioner Mattis Castillo.
Yes, I just wanted to also share congratulations, Jeff. And I think, you know, a lot of people saw you on screen very quiet and stoic, but we all got the opportunity to get to know you and just how passionate you are for our community and issues of equity and immigration and moving our values forward. And so I just really want to say thank you for that. And thank you for being that steadfast person for all of us.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Mary Jo McGuire. Muted.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There we go. Well, Jeff, you're going to hear the same themes running through because it is the essence of who you are, that we have all so appreciated your work and your dedication to Ramsey County, being a lifelong resident and just continuing to stay with us. But your kindness, your calmness, your subtle wit and humor, and we have some difficult situations that we deal with as a county board, and you have always brought that great sense of competence and compassion to your good, wise counsel that you give us in these meetings, and we just appreciate that so much. It's so great to have you in the room. We're like, well, Jeff will help us figure this out, you know, or he'll help us with ideas on how we know we can do this in the best legal way, and we really appreciate that. So thank you so much for all of your service, and I wish you well and in your next journey in your life, and just enjoy that in your family. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner McGuire.
Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jeff, I just wanted to say a couple of things that I've really appreciated so much about you and working with you over the years. Ryan's already mentioned one of them, but it's a really important one, and that's finding a way to get the yes. And that's a skill set and a value of yours to working with us and being our attorney. That's been really valued by me, and I really appreciate it. And the other one is, no matter how much we stumped you, you always came back with an answer. You always found the resource. You always got there. And we gave you lots of questions that I could see right away. I was like, where'd that one come from? But you hung in there with us, and you got us the information to help us make good decisions moving forward for our community. So I want to say thank you and wish you all the best, and to you and your family as you move on to the next adventure in your life. Take care.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you. Commissioner Ortega.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. It's come so quickly, Jeff. It's been a pleasure working with you. Everything that's been said, I just want to echo, especially the part about being compassionate and very confident and always calm. I always think of you as one of the best sounding boards I have. It's good to talk things over with you, and you bring clarity when we have discussions. So I just wish the best for you and your family, and keep in touch and take care. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. We have all expressed our thoughts of appreciation, and I would just like to once again thank you for everything that you've heard, for your special care and consideration, helping us untangle gnarly circumstances and do the work that we all need to do to meet our objectives, our mission, our vision, our values for all of Ramsey County. You have certainly done your work for Ramsey County, and you will always be appreciated. And we are looking so forward to your opportunity to now also enjoy so much else with your family. I know that you too will look forward to that day. That day, June 16th, is it? Is that the day?
No, end of the month, Commissioner.
The end of the month.
Yep.
Okay. So the end of the month, when we will say a sad but fond farewell to you in this particular work, and continue to look forward to your connection to us in the county. Thank you so very much for being here today.
Thank you very much.
And it's difficult, but you're getting hand claps right now. It is difficult to do so remotely, but here we go. Thank you so much. So again, we wanted to do that to wish Jeff special congratulations and parting farewell as he goes on to his journey in life. And now, as always, we'll turn to our COVID-19 update. County Manager O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, Jeff, I just want to say you can tell every generation to follow you that you were the first to receive the award during COVID in all the new systems and ways we do the work. So let me give you credit for that. You made history as well. I will turn it directly over to Public Health Director Kathy Hadeen, Madam Chair. Our goal is to keep things a little bit quicker and briefer today on this update, not because there isn't a ton going on, but we have a number of members of the community here and a robust administrative agenda, and want to be sure we cover some other important work that will be before us in a bit. Kathy.
Thank you, County Manager O'Connor, and thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Here is the COVID-19 situation update, and we will move to the dashboard so you can see the data while I go through it. In Minnesota, there have been 30,693 people who have tested positive for COVID-19 so far. Last week at this time, we were at 28,224. Total cases requiring hospitalization to date is 3,630. Hospitalized as of yesterday, 353 people in the state. Last week at this time, we were at 452. We continue to go down as this is the lowest number in the last month. Hospitalized in ICU as of yesterday across the state is 186. Again, last week at 198, also the lowest that we've been for ICU numbers. Unfortunately, 1,335 people have died from COVID across the state. 1,034 of those have been in our long-term care centers. Last week at this time, we were at 1,197. In Ramsey County, as of today, we've had 4,014 people who have tested positive for COVID. Last week at this time, we were at 3,614. Total cumulative cases requiring hospitalization in the county, 607 with 190 who have been in the ICU. Unfortunately, we've lost 188 people to COVID across our county, including one more person, unfortunately, who has passed away from our Ramsey County Care Center. Our condolences go to their family and the staff in that center. Of the 4,014 cases, 29% are white, 24% Asian, 18% unknown. That number continues to trickle downward because of the work of our contact investigation and contact tracing. 16% are black, 10% select other, 2% are multiracial, and we have 16 cases who are American Indian. 17% of our cases identify as Hispanic. Cases by city, again, the majority of our cases are in St. Paul, with now all cities within Ramsey County having cases of COVID. Total approximate number of completed tests across our state is at 422,922. Last week, we're at 354,226, so an increase of 68,700 tests over the last week, which is good. We want to make sure people are continuing to go and get tested. Remember, you can get this information from our data dashboard by going to www.ramseycounty.us/coronavirus. Testing continues to be one way we can try and slow the spread of COVID-19. We continue to offer testing sites today, Tuesday, June 16th, and tomorrow, Wednesday, June 17th, at Jimmy Lee Rec Center, also known as Oxford Community Center. Testing is open to everyone, whether you have symptoms or you don't have symptoms, you can get a test. Testing is free and no insurance will be needed. It is open at our Jimmy Lee site beginning at 11 a.m. today for walk-ins, and for people who didn't get appointments, we will also take people throughout the day who did not have the opportunity to get an appointment. Oxford Community Center is located at 270 Lexington Parkway North in St. Paul. Again, testing will be offered Tuesdays and Wednesdays for this week and next week, June 16th and 17th, and then June 23rd and 24th. From 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. each day. This is predominantly a drive-through testing site. Walk-ups will be taken, but we encourage you to sign up for that appointment to avoid long lines. People can also call 1-800-657-3903 if you don't have access to internet or need assistance making an appointment, and that number is available by going to our website and clicking on the links. Other testing sites are located in Minneapolis at Holy Trinity Church, Sabathany Community Center, and New Salem Baptist Church. All Minneapolis testing sites will be on the same days and take place during the same hours as the Oxford Community Center site. I'm sorry, not quite finished yet, almost done. I'm cautiously optimistic about the statewide COVID data that we are seeing. We are still seeing high rates of infection in our Black and brown communities. One health clinic in our community has seen a 43% positivity rate of symptomatic patients, meaning of the people who are being tested for COVID at that clinic, 43% are testing positive. In May, according to Kaiser Family Foundation, some health clinics across the nation were seeing high positivity rates of 28%, and at that same time, the national average was 13%. And to put all that into perspective again, we only saw about a 5% positivity rate at our free mobile COVID clinics in St. Paul and Minneapolis last week. This virus continues to disproportionately affect Black, Asian, Hispanic, and American Indian people due to increased rates of diabetes, heart disease, and other high-risk factors that complicate our ability to fight off COVID. Reasons for this are due to systemic racism, disproportionate access to high-quality health care, education, and jobs. So while Ramsey County continues to reduce barriers that cause systemic racism, we also need to remain vigilant at this time to protect one another. Continue to social distance, remain 6 feet away from one another, wear face coverings and masks, and wash our hands. So far, MDH is continuing to see a plateau of cases across the state. This doesn't mean that we are in the clear. It's important that we continue to offer targeted mobile testing sites, that healthcare providers like Open Cities and Minnesota Community Care continue to get support to test both symptomatic and asymptomatic people, and that as the summer progresses, we continue to do our best to stay healthy. We've got a long way to go with COVID, and we may only be nearing the end of what might be the first wave of infections. But we must continue to provide prevention messages and help our community gain access to tests and care. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Commissioners, on the finance side, we'll have another finance update posted online today. Ramsey County's financial summary through June 14th puts our actual and obligated costs at $24.2 million. And as of today, for example, pieces keep coming in each week. We have a significant request for board action not accounted for in that dollar amount. That'll be before us. I believe it's item 19 on your agenda. So we continue to see our costs increase as we meet the response around us. In the area of the $40 million for the operating response, specifically related to CARES, through the rate-setting contracts that this board has approved, the obligated spend is up to $7.1 million in contracts. That would be through the end of the year. So not all those dollars have been spent. That would be the obligated amount should we go to the end of the year. We don't pay for rooms we don't use, but as you know, we need all the rooms that we've been procuring. Other areas in that $40 million operating expense, $1 million for COVID tests, $2.6 million on PPE, $766,000 for IT needs, $500,000 for service redesign. $1 million was set aside for emergency employee childcare. That's a spot where, as we've seen the system catch up and some of our initial needs go, hopefully our costs, as projected, are higher than what the actual spend relates to. In the $56 million for financial, workforce development, and small business assistance, I just want to point out that that work has really gotten up and underway. We have been forming this week a what I'll call like a back-end response team comprised of administrative support staff, procurement staff, finance staff, policy staff to help drive the money through. To put a sense, for $56 million in spend in 6 months, our largest operating department has about a $56 million budget, and that's a 12-month period. To spend $56 million in 6 months across new programs that we are developing on the fly in partnership with the community is a test that this organization has never taken on before. We are doing it well, and we are on track. The small business money is beginning to get out the door and be obligated. In financial assistance, in the general assistance, in emergency general assistance, and food security, contracts are being finalized. In workforce development, multiple requests for quotes have already been released and responses are coming in. And so much more to come. On the homelessness side also, we're hoping to have a projected monthly budget for the homelessness work specifically developed, hopefully by the end of this week. My goal next Tuesday will be to present that to you. As you can understand, with so many costs in flight, it's challenging to have a number while adding to it every single day. But I want to thank Finance for having worked diligently to be able to say that we think by next week at this time we'll be able to have that like solid monthly projection of where we sit. And it'll incorporate today's board work as well. As I turn to the policy side, as of today is June 16th, effective as of today, we are moving toward a policy related to general face covering guidelines, process, and applicability within Ramsey County. So this policy is signed by the county manager, goes into effect today. All Ramsey County employees will be required to wear a face covering while working indoors and while working outdoors within close contact of other individuals. Ramsey County is providing each employee with 2 reusable face cloth coverings. Employees may also wear cloth face coverings of their own choosing. Clear face shields should be used by staff when working with clients who need to read lips. And there's a way in which employees can make sure they have those clear shields if needed. All other personnel, which would include contractors, volunteers, students, and interns, are also required to wear face coverings when working indoors in Ramsey County spaces and while working outdoor in Ramsey County spaces within close proximity of other individuals. Visitors are encouraged to wear face coverings, but are not required to unless disposable or reusable face masks are made available to ensure that everyone can have access to one. We will not turn people away if they do not have a mask. We're going to continue to ask and educate our community. We're going to continue to try and up the supply so that we can always provide everybody with a mask. But in the interim, we will not turn people away if they do not have a mask. In general, we're going to ask that everybody practice social distancing at all times, meaning staying 6 feet apart from others, regardless of whether face masks are being used. Today's From the County Manager column is on this topic. There was a video Dr. Lynn Ogawa, Ramsey County's medical director, did last week explaining the importance of face masks and how to appropriately put them on and off, keep your hands clean. I want to thank her for doing that. But as masks are a big topic, this is one of the next steps we take to ensure that everybody here stays safe. And it's also a sign that we finally received enough PPE in our organization to be able to take this step and supply all employees with those 2 face coverings. In the area of food and basic needs, there's a lot that's been moving, and I want to give 3 areas of updates. We've been partnering with school programs to expand and enhance existing services. Since last week, the USDA, U.S. Department of Ag, extended additional waivers that allow most of our school districts to continue their food programs through August 31st. If you remember, that was a question that we talked about here last week. Unfortunately, Mounds View ended their food program on June 4th and does not intend to restart this summer. So we are working with existing partners to figure out how to meet the food needs of youth in the Mounds View School District specifically. Number two, we are working to ensure that homebound residents continue to have access to food and basic needs through community partners for prepared meals and food boxes. The first of 3 emergency purchase informal quotes for home delivery was released on June 8th, so last week. 13 proposals were received as of Monday. Those quotes are being reviewed this week with contracts anticipated next week. The second and third quotes in this space to be released, which will cover food boxes, groceries, and basic needs and school program support, will be released this week and next week. We are intentionally seeking innovative and culturally specific proposals, prioritizing our most vulnerable communities, aligning with Kathy's comments earlier about race and ethnicity and the impact of COVID. We are encouraging joint proposals and grassroots organizations to apply. It's a rolling process, so there's no way to miss the deadline and then later on get caught out. And we have a link to further information. It's very available on our website. We're going to continue to push it out everywhere, and I'll make sure you have it. Finally, communications to ensure people know about available food resources and access to them. You all received a flyer from me yesterday that went out wide across our organization, and it went to all of our city partners in Ramsey County as well. It's intended to be an insert that mails with all of the work that we do. It has information on food resources, but also more general COVID resources. It's translated into a number of different languages right on the flyer as well, so that it's easy to read. And we're continually updating our online food resource map that's had 3,000 views since its launch May 29th. We're now creating a similar map with health resources that include COVID testing sites and pharmacies. Finally, in the area of the Racial Equity and Community Engagement Response Team, the Trusted Messenger and Media and Messaging RFQs, requests for quotes, closed last week. We talked about that briefly at the board meeting. 27 informal quotes were received for the Trusted Messenger request for quotes. 22 quotes were received for the Media and Messaging request for quotes. The Equity Action Circle, made up of community members, along with our staff that sit on the Racial Equity and Community Engagement Response Team, are now reviewing those quotes between June 15th and the 18th. Funding recommendations will be made to the research leads by the end of this week. So I hope to be able to share more next week, but contracts are expected by the end of June. That was a big effort that also was part of that CARES funding that we talked about at the beginning of how we're deploying resources in racially and culturally specific ways to recognize that messages need to come from more than just Ramsey County as a government institution to be effective. Madam Chair, I do have a couple other updates on the emergency period related to social unrest. I'm going to save that until we do the county connections so that we may continue to move toward our community partners being a part of today's presentation. I just want to highlight that. And before we wrap up, just so I don't forget it, I made a note to myself. If there is any way possible when you go through your administrative items, if item 18 gets pulled, since we have 5 members of the community here for it, if you could consider maybe making that one the first one to discuss and receive information on, that would just be a request I would make to you. Thank you, commissioners. We stand for questions.
Thank you very much. And noting that we will move more quickly through our COVID update. It's an important update, and I do have a number of questions. We'll start with Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of questions here. Director Hedin, I could call my healthcare provider and ask this, but just because you had mentioned all of the different testing sites, if we happen to have an appointment with our own doctor in our own health system, will they be able to give us testing? Are our health systems giving normal testing, or do you have to go to a testing site?
Madam Chair and Commissioner McGuire, thanks for the question. You absolutely can get tested at your provider. So certainly if you have access to a provider and they're providing tests, I would recommend that you go there first.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And then I have one other question with County Manager O'Connor. I appreciate our policy of masks at the office. I think it's a good modeling the way, and I think we should be doing that. And when I give my AMC report, I'll share with you some information about masks, and how different around the state people feel about that. But I'm just curious, are people, when they're at their desks or in their offices, they won't need to wear masks then, but it's just when they're in a group setting or when they're moving outside of their desk area? Are you recommending that they wear their mask at their desks as well?
Madam Chair, I think the easiest way to always think about it is less about every specific spot you could identify and more about any scenario you may be in which it's hard to maintain social distancing or it's an unpredictable environment. So if you're working in a space in which people may be walking by or walking into your space, you should be wearing a mask to protect them, and they should be wearing a mask to protect you. If you're in an office or a meeting room with the door closed and people are not coming in and out and you're working by yourself, you can remove your mask, and there's really no reason for you to have to wear it. There's no health guidance that then says you need to wear it. So we're going to rely on people's judgment. We're not going to come around and police this on every floor of every building. I think, unless you all want to volunteer for that, I think we're going to pass on that part. But it's going to be a judgment education piece. And quite frankly, Ramsey County employees want to do the right thing, and keeping everybody safe is a part of that right thing.
I really appreciate that, and I thank you. And I think it is. It's a protecting everyone else policy, which I appreciate. So thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire, thanks. One last thing I'll just add, because I got this as we're sitting here. It sounds like Mounds View is going to start a food pickup program again after July 4th. So I rescind my previous comment and replace it with the good news of our last school district is back in.
That is breaking news, Ms. County Manager, and I know all of us are excited, especially Commissioner Fretham and I. We're very excited about that was able to be worked out with all the partners involved. So thank you to everyone.
Thank you. Breaking news and good news indeed. Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kathy did a nice job touching on this, but I wanted to be a little more deliberate in calling it out as we reported our lowest numbers, and MDH is talking about us plateauing. Article on the front page of today's paper, Texas and Florida, who opened early and aggressively, reported record highest number of cases since it started on Sunday. North Carolina and Arizona, near record reports, also two states that opened early and aggressive. Another article talked about as Europe opens, Beijing is reporting huge spikes in cases. So complacency is going to be really important here moving forward, or not getting complacent, because as the governor's talked about, dialing back restrictions, but staying safe is going to be so important. We can learn from areas that opened up early and they're seeing negative impacts that are putting their populations at risk. Brian, I think, the policy around masks is going to be really important, so we don't start seeing those spikes. And leading by example and setting and really focusing in on education, because as I'm out more in the community, the weariness of staying at home and the toll it's taken on us and the mental health issues that have come with that are real. And the opportunities to engage and be there are exciting to people, but we are not out of this, and it's being demonstrated throughout our country. So I just wanted to make sure we're calling that out and really focusing in on how we can educate and lead by example here in Ramsey County about keeping our folks safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonough. Commissioner Fretham.
Thank you. I have two quick questions. I'll echo Commissioner McGuire, excited that Mounds View's found a way to restart their program. I know in addition to the funding, there was also some space issues that were contributing to that. So glad that there is a solution. For Kathy Hadeen, wondering if you have any updates or if anything's come down to you at the local level yet about the news that dexamethasone seems to reduce mortality in patients. It is on New York Times and BBC were reporting this morning. And then Ryan, kind of a less priority question, just to confirm that bathroom access is being opened up at our county parks facilities. I've received a number of questions from constituents about that and heard from Parks Director last week that they plan to open them as of today, and just wanted to confirm that that's moving forward.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Fretham, thanks for the question. Actually, our own Jeff Stevenson let me know about the headline this morning. So you all are reading the news and getting it before I am. So if I get more information about what that means and how effective it is, I'm happy to share it here at upcoming meetings.
Thank you. And so that is our set of questions. We're very thankful for the update this morning and for all of the work that you have been doing in public health and across the county in order to keep us safe and to give good advice and counsel in preparation for our community to keep all of us safe. I want to thank you, acknowledge that we likely have not asked all of the questions that we have today because we have such a hefty agenda. But again, thank you for this COVID update and for the ongoing updates as we go through our COVID response. Also, with respect for time and those who are here with us today, or at least there in the courtroom with us, I do want to pause so that we can take a brief moment of silence in recognition of so many who have lost during this period lives, jobs, a sense of sanctity and safety as we struggle through the COVID update, and also noting the loss of one of our residents at the Ramsey County Care Center since our last meeting. So one moment of silence, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll move on with our administrative agenda. I'll call on Commissioner Ortega to take us through it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move item 7, inclusion of support for police reform to the 2020 state legislative platform. Item number 8, government relations, inclusion of support for cultural and ethnic community leadership council in the 2020 legislative platform.
Paul.
Item number 9, county assessor property tax abatement. Item number 10, extension of the 2019 Violence Against Women Act services, training officers, prosecutors, special projects grant from the state of Minnesota. Item number 11, sole source agreement with the Metropolitan Council for MetroPass license. Item number 12, from Property Management Public Health, lease agreements with the Wilder Foundation for 451 Lexington Parkway North, St. Paul, Minnesota. Item number 13, from Property Management, the ponds of Battle Creek, an undeveloped parcel at the Ramsey County Correctional Facility due diligence project.
Paul.
Item number 14, Community and Economic Development, certification of property assessed, clean energy charges for energy improvements. Item 6, number 15, emergency communications, appointment to the Board of Local Governments Information System. Item 16, from the County Manager, Minnesota Council on Local Results and Innovations Performance Measurement Program. Item number 17, from Social Services, single source agreement with Minnesota One Stop for Communities for Parent Mentor Program.
I'll pull that.
Item number 18, County Manager, appointment to Transforming Systems Together Partnership Committee.
Pull.
Item 19, County Manager, from the County Manager, unclassified limited duration appointments for COVID-19 homeless operations.
Pull.
And that's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Once again,
Second.
thank you. There is a
Madam-
motion. And
Madam Chair,
yes,
if we could,
Commissioner Reinhardt.
as County Manager O'Connor noted, item 18, if we could take that one up first. As
thank
part of
you
the
very
motion.
much. All right, thank you very much. So we have the motion and we have the second, and we are ready to move forward those items which have not been pulled. I will note the items pulled are 7, 8, 13, 17, 18, and 19. And so the other items on our agenda, is there any further discussion for those items? If not, we have a motion and a second. Would you please call the roll?
Ortega,
Aye.
Reinhardt,
Aye.
Fretham,
Aye.
Miles Castillo,
Aye.
McDonough,
Aye.
McGuire,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye. Thank you. And so the items not pulled have passed. Now we have the remaining items, 7, 8, 13, 17, and 18. Was 19 pulled? 19 was not. Yes, and 19.
yes.
So thank you very much. We will, according to the request, move to item number 18. We have a number of people in our community who are here. And as I recall, Commissioner Reinhardt pulled the item. So let me go to Commissioner Reinhardt first. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that this work and reading through the documentation is very exciting, and I wanted to make sure that people knew what we were doing. We've talked about transforming systems together and the partnerships that have to be formed in order to do that. This work was underway before all of the recent issues came up, including COVID-19 and, of course, the civil unrest. But in looking at the people that have been appointed, or with this, I will move approval of this, when the people that are on this list are a pretty amazing group of people. I think that it really goes to show just how serious and important this work is, and how much we all appreciate the work that is going forward. So this is, and some of the other things that we have on our agenda today are obviously related to this as well, but trying to make sure that we are really putting action behind our words and how important that is to our entire community. And so I was just really pleased to see this, again, along with other items on our agenda today that will really move that vision forward, the vision of our entire board. So I would move approval of this item, and I assume that there are some folks that will be being recognized or asked to speak. I'm not sure who's in the audience there, but there's a lot of work to be done, and I am confident with the partnership, the partner committee that we have put together, that we are just going to move this forward in a very logical and aggressive way.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonough. So there is a motion and a second. I am going to go immediately to County Manager O'Connor to introduce the team that is here with us today. And I'm so thankful that we have the opportunity to hear from community members. Commissioner O'Connor. I'm sorry, County Manager O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as I speak, we're going to have a number of great community leaders come and join me around this table. I even think the symbolism of the opportunity for them to come sit up at the board table and help present this while we all space and socially distance is important to the visual of much of what we're talking about. And for everybody going to a microphone, and Laura, you're just going to stand right up there. I think that'll be okay. when you speak, if you make sure the red button is on, and if it's not on, you just hit the giant thing in front of it, and then it'll turn on and off. So that'll make sure you can be heard by everybody. Madam Chair, in the 2020-2021 budget, as a culmination of years worth of work in this community and hearing from community, and I want to acknowledge, not always at points of happiness. In moments where at times we've sat across from each other on diametrically what felt like opposed sides of a table in ways saying we have to do better in this community to truly move forward under a collective way in which we're all valued and thrive. In the 2020-2021 budget, the opportunity came forward to think about how we reimagine while we continue to reform our work. And through that, the idea of transforming systems together was first proposed. There was a long workshop on August 20th of 2019 with all of you to help shape that work. And in the final budget that you passed last December, you formally supported the creation of the Transforming Systems Together work in Ramsey County. There's been a lot written on it and described. I could point people back to budget documentation and that workshop from August 20th. For the background and underpinnings for the work, I want to give the time to the community today to talk about what we've gone through. But one of the pieces to that Transforming Systems Together work was a recognition that we not only need to move resources and think about reimagination alongside reform, but we also need to share power. And that means you can't create a community table by me picking that table alone. And so we needed to find community members to take a leadership role in where they put their hands up and said, we want to help this work move forward. And so today I'm joined by the Community Catalysts. They're a group that was formed in partnership with Ramsey County. And our goal along the way was to try and support them while letting them lead us to where we could get to as we thought through making a final slate of recommendations to you about the community members to join a county community committee as a part of the Transforming Systems Together work. I want to thank Lerone Greer in particular for his work in Ramsey County for helping to staff and support these catalysts along the way. One of the things I'll say is they always recognize the important role that having Lerone there as a person to help navigate through this big complex system was and how important that was. And I want to individually call him out. And then I want to collectively call out a lot of staff along the way who should know who they are for their work in helping to support both the ethos of this work and the actual implementation of it. With that, Madam Chair, I'll be here to help take questions, but I want to give the time over here to the Catalysts to both introduce themselves and talk a little bit about the process they've used to get to where we did today. I had an opportunity to sit down and talk with them leading up to today and said, I couldn't do this any better. Why don't you come and tell your story and where we ended up? And so I believe, is it Eli or Lorene's kicking it off? Okay, Eli's kicking it off. So I'm going to go to Eli Darris first, and he can begin a presentation with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm going to read a brief statement, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Lorene Wade. The Twin Cities are in the epicenter of an international storm. The death of George Floyd and the aftermath has struck a deep chord around the world and certainly here in the Twin Cities. The focus of the outcry has been and is on systemic and seismic eradication of structural racism in which the voices and the will of the people will no longer be drowned out or disregarded. 6 months ago, we embarked on a mission to bring together a collection of community members who are willing enough to partner with Ramsey County to help inform and co-create a new way of conducting government and community relations and policy implementation. We will get into the specifics of how that process unfolded shortly, but we are in a moment in which the world is watching. We have already began down a road of community empowerment that few, if any, governments have ever partaken. But we have to get it right, and we have to make sure that what we're doing is real. The eyes of the world is watching, waiting, and expecting. Now, we didn't know that we would be in the middle of this firestorm, this international firestorm, but here we are, and here we have been. This is our time to build a model together that is responsive and effective. This is our time to help build a new way forward. It is our time to strike a chord that will be heard and felt around the world, in which other county governments can follow the lead of what we co-create together. I want to turn the mic over to Lorraine Wade, who will detail the journey of how we arrived at the selection of nearly 18 community members who have stood tall to co-create this new world together as with you as equal and powerful stakeholders in this process. So, Lorraine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Darris, and welcome, Ms. Randall.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners, Madam Chair. My name is Lorraine Randall Wade. And before I jump into this journey that has brought us here today, I would like each one of us to go around and introduce ourselves.
Laura LeBlanc.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tanya Long.
Good morning. My name is John Poupart.
My name is John Thompson.
And we're missing one, Miss Anika Bowie, but she's here with us. I hope she's watching somewhere. I want to be able to walk us through this journey that brought us here today. And I'm sure that there was a PowerPoint, a very short PowerPoint that was shared with you. And I'm just going to go over some of the slides. And so the beginning of this journey, about 6 months or so ago, brought us to a table where some of us knew each other and some of us didn't. But we started this process with a recruitment process where we agreed that we would put together 2 community forums. And in that 2 community forums, we would engage county tools to spread the word. And then we engaged neighborhood and cultural community canvassers to get event flyers out in the zip codes where Ramsey County has its most concentrated presence. One canvasser covered all the cities in Ramsey County to get flyers in recreation centers, libraries, or both. And so there's a picture of one of our 2 forums that we held. And then we have the flyer that we were able to create, and with the help of Ramsey County's, I believe it was Chris Burns, helped us kind of shape and put this flyer together that we passed out throughout the entire community for individuals, inviting them to the community forums. So then we created a process where we had a selection process. If you can look on the slides and see that there were 54 candidates that surfaced out of the 2 forums. And then there was an email that went out to all who signed up. There were finalists that we ended up having a Zoom interview, which we did not know that COVID-19 was going to come in the middle of that. But we really had to hustle and bustle to figure out how was this work going to continue and move forward. And so we were able to do that through Zoom interviews. I believe when it first hit, we were on a Zoom almost every single day with each other, sometimes twice a day. And then there was collective scores. So John Poupart had created a grading score for us, and we were all able to use that as we went through the interview process. And then I'm going to move to the Catalyst Collective strategy. So it's this wheel. There's this trust and diverse expertise and many strengths, combined networks. There's formal community feedback along the way. It's a homegrown process. It's a circle. And we did not let oppression, inequalities, and justice hold us back. Then there were the essential county supports. There were stable, positive energy, always consistently, even through the hard conversations that we had to have. There was some reverse engineering going on. There was space to grind it out. And I really like that language, reverse engineering, because sitting in the room with us, it was truly some reversing going on there. Space to grind it out. Access to county workspaces. The county was very, very helpful in this process to give us what it was that we needed. There was full autonomy in decisions. We were able to sit together and make some decisions, and we were given that opportunity and power to be able to do that. And then Lerone. We can't say enough about Lerone and how he helped us out so much through this process. Even when we would sometimes be stuck, he wouldn't even jump in. He would let us figure it out. But we all give our hats off to him. Leadership position, operating different and moving different. This is a statement that was made by John Poupart. It says, "This is a first. We may never travel these steps again. Let us make them as successful as possible. Thank you for your confidence in us to lay the right foundation for this work going forward." And that's how we got to be where we are today. And the one thing that we recognize with community and county, that shared power is powerful. And so we look forward to what's coming down the line in the future, COVID or no COVID. We look forward to what's happening. And so I'm going to pass to any of the Catalyst members to see if they have anything to say. But thank you so much.
It's been an honor to be a part of this work on behalf of the county and the
I'm sorry, I need to check in. If someone is speaking, we're unable to hear.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. We're working on it.
Thank you.
How do I do that?
Yeah, lean in close and give it a shot again, Laura.
Okay, is that right?
I think you got it.
Okay, I'll just say quickly, it is an honor to be a part of the Ramsey County effort to do something that has such challenge and such integrity, and a tremendous honor to be a part of this Catalyst team and to get to know everybody and to figure out what our collective way of working together. I think we've done some remarkable work.
Thank you so much, Ms. LeBlanc.
Hello, this is Tanya. I would like to say that too. I want to thank everyone
just
for
push it once. Push it once. Sorry. There it is.
I'd like to thank everyone for the opportunity, and that culturally, I felt that this process of reaching out to community members who actually live in the community and use the services that are provided to ask us what we need and how we can work towards transforming, rather than having someone sit there and telling us what we need and how to transform it. So I think that's very important. That's a huge step. And I think across the nation, I hope that this process actually flows out and everyone starts adopting that.
Tanya, thank you so much.
Yeah, John Poupart again. Just want to say a few words about the relationship between our group and Ramsey County. That functioned very well, as Lorene commented. But I want to really say more about our Catalyst group and how we functioned so well. It was a dynamic that I have never experienced before. The group, the racial makeup, ethnic makeup, and how well we worked together. It was something I have never experienced before, and how progressive we were, how we got our work done. It was just amazing. It's a dynamic I just have never had the opportunity to be a part of. And the synthesis that we came forth with, I've never experienced before. In my work of researching, of writing and speaking about the kinds of issues of public policy, about inclusion of various communities, this has to top that all off. And more importantly, about the American Indian community, why we haven't been particularly participatory is because of our cultural differences, the lack of trust toward government institutions. We did not know about government. We didn't know how it works. And I'm sure from this day forward, we're going to be more a part of it. And thanks to this group, and thanks to the 9-member committee, the TST that's emerging, who will hopefully be approved today, we will see a new light emerging out of the darkness of the past. And I really thank Ramsey County for having the vision, the courage to make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Poupart.
Thank you, commissioners, Madam Chair. I definitely want to say thank you to Lerone for always having our backs and really letting us hammer this out. Also, just to, like, I don't want to repeat Eli, but we are in a time now, like before George Floyd, we were in a pandemic and my community was in an epidemic. And the work that Ramsey County has been doing before the pandemic or before George Floyd has never been tried before. And I can honestly say that because I was the guy that was showing up to Ramsey County with my bullhorn and 250 people behind me. Thank you for understanding that we can't fix the problems in the community without the community having power and giving us the power to create something like this. It wasn't easy. We bumped our heads a lot. We cried, but we came together and we came up with what we think are some really good people to co-govern with. And this is something that I never thought would ever happen, not only with Ramsey County, but I thank you for being a part and allowing me and these other cohorts of mine of being a part of history. What's going to happen is the world is going to ask Ramsey County, how'd you do it? And we're a part of that. Thank you. And I want to say that again. Thank you so much for allowing us to figure it out and to bring a group of community members who can co-govern with Ramsey County. And from here on out, we're not being proactive. We're not being reactive. I'm sorry. We're not being reactive. We're being proactive here at Ramsey County. And I just want to say again, thank you, and I'll just keep up the good work. But we have to say thank you like 300 times to Lerone, yourself, Brother Ryan, and the rest of the cohorts. Like, man, Ramsey County, you have almost bringing tears to my eye. Thank you. Thank you for for allowing us to create this group and to actually invest in the community. And I'm hoping that the state would see the work that you guys are doing here. I'm hoping that the city on the other side of the water will follow suit. And when they bump their heads, they come to Ramsey County and ask, how'd you do it? That's it. I get a little teary-eyed, but I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, now you see why it was important for us to let these catalysts as community members and representatives share their own words and their own wisdom here today, a little slice of the wisdom and the words they've been able to bring through this entire process. They lift up a slate of candidates you can see attached here that by the way this was set up, the recommendation was supposed to come forward from the county manager to the board, and I wholeheartedly endorse every recommendation without change that came through this process that was thoughtful and inclusive. And I appreciate the work of so many others to make our job one that can build this community together toward our vision, mission, and goals. And I want to end with the recognition that this was a big first step in a much bigger systemic and long-term process. And so part of the responsibility that I know I and others sitting here today in this audience feel is that how we went about the selection process matters. Now what we do going forward with the group around the community committee in partnership with the county, how we invest the resources in this space, and how we continue to navigate forward. We have a beacon from which we can guide ourselves, but we should never take for granted that it will naturally just happen. We need to continue to lean in and feel uncomfortable and find new ways to realize that this is how we can transform our system. So thank you, Madam Chair, and I think we all collectively can stand for any questions any members may have.
Thank you very much to all of the members of the Catalyst team who have spoken. You've helped us to place a marker on this, our entry into even greater transformation. Thanks for being workers in our community on the ground doing this work, and for bringing your expertise now in this more formal way to us and helping us to select this next step forward in our Transforming Systems Together team. I do have members here who have questions, comments, and I'm going to call on the commissioners. Commissioner Matas-Castillo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say a heartfelt thank you to everyone of the Catalyst team and the group that we are about to vote on as well for leading us through this. We really do know and believe that solutions come from the community if they're going to work. And so I couldn't be more honored to co-govern with you as we work through this work. And it's incredibly difficult to not be in the room with you today of all days, but I am so happy that you have taken my seat at the table to lead us in this work. And I can't wait to be in this arm in arm with you together. So thank you all. And John, you and I have shared a lot of tears, and you did it to me again today. So thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Commissioner Matas-Castillo. Commissioner Fretham.
Thank you. Yes, I just want to echo Commissioner Matas-Castillo and say thank you. Thank you as we do this. This is new. No one's done it before. And there's always fear that you're going to screw it up. So thank you for being with us and being willing to partner with us despite, centuries of government hurting your community. So on purpose and incidentally, and your trust and partnership is so important. I want to make sure that the RBA is fully reflective. I don't see Tanya Long's name in the list at the first paragraph, impact of community participation. So I just want to make sure she gets added to make sure that all of the members of the Catalyst team are recognized. That's all. Thank you.
Madam Chair, we will absolutely make that addition, and I apologize to Ms. Long for her name not being in there.
Thank you very much. So as we move forward to accept the RBA, we'll make certain that it is with that change to add Tanya Long to the list of our Catalyst team members. Thank you. And next, I'll move on to Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And as usual, I can't say it any better than my colleagues, but oh my gosh, we are so honored to be on this journey with you. We are so fortunate to have such an amazing community team of catalysts to help us envision how we should move forward. And we absolutely can't do it without you. I'm also honored to have you in my place at that table. And we are looking forward to working with you. I do have just sort of a process question. I'm excited about all of the teams we're forming. So how will the community catalysts then interact with the Transitioning Systems Together team that we're appointing today? I'm reading through our board docs, and I'm just not as clear. If you could just help me understand, how will all of you stay engaged, which of course I absolutely want you all to stay engaged, and maybe you're a part of it and I just missed that you're also on the transitioning teams together, but I don't see that, or on transitioning systems together. If you could help me with that.
Thank you. So County Manager, is there someone who should respond to this question other than you?
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner McGuire. I've somehow been appointed by the team. We are in a process of taking a lead to define the answer to that question. So the Burns Institute has already been working with Ramsey County on what does the real structural change look like for the county. And our group right now is defining how we're going to onboard the Burns Institute and what our role will be in partnership with the Burns Institute to lay the onboarding process, the technical assistance process. And so some of that is still being defined in our collective spirit and in our conversations. We are working on that, and we're taking a proposal to Scott and to Ryan shortly. So we'll know more with a little bit more time for reflection and conversation. Our initial thought is that we would be players that transition ourselves out. So maybe over the course of a year or whatever time it takes, we're going to try and take the relationship and the way of operating that we've already developed and transform that into the whole process of how the county works with the transforming system together, community representatives. So we're going to be defining it more and being good stewards of it.
I really appreciate that, and just thank you again so much for your effort. I'm glad you're going to be obviously staying involved and figuring out that transition. So just thank you all so much for your partnership.
Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to thank the Catalyst team here in your work here with us. You're all leaders in the community in your own right, and you brought that credibility from the beginning and your willingness to work with us to drive some confidence for other in the community to apply, to be a part of this and be willing to work with Ramsey County. That's a big ask considering our history. And your willingness to do that is helping drive the success of this. I've shared meals with most of you and look forward to sharing meals with you all again in the future and continuing to have our conversations that we've had. But we wouldn't be here today without all of your willingness to be a part of this on the Catalyst team. And as we move forward, as Laura pointed out, working with the Burns Institute and continuing to find roles and how things work, I am really excited about the work that we're starting here today. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you. Well, I'm really glad to have heard from folks there, and I just want to say that tears are good for the soul. And I think that with our board, we've always, when we've laid something out, we've always said that we are a board of action. We don't just talk about something, we get it done. And with the partners that are there today and that we're about to approve, we're going to be able to really move this forward. And I'm incredibly proud of the work that the Transforming Systems team is the partner committee is going to be doing and how we're going to weave it into everything we do. That's the whole point of making sure that we are changing the system. As Commissioner McDonough has said in the past, it's not systems really, it's a system and where we've been at. So onward, and I'm just so pleased to see us at this point.
Thank you. Commissioner Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just simply want to echo what everybody else has stated, and I won't take much time, but just to say thank you for all the work they've done. I've worked with several folks there in the past, and we got a good group of folks, and hopefully they'll make us better moving forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much also. I see hands continuing to be raised, but I think that that's just our getting used to Zoom. So I am going to move on. I'm just with a very, very big thanks to those who are here today. We've had our discussion regarding this item, number 18. We know that as we move it forward and take our vote, it will be with the addition of Ms. Tanya Long to the Catalyst team, as noted in the resolution for board action. If there are no further comments or questions or additions in this particular discussion, and I see no hands now, I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roll.
Ortega.
He said aye on mute.
You are.
Ortega.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Reinhardt.
Aye.
Fretham.
Aye.
Modis Castillo.
Yes.
McDonough.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye, aye. So we have now, thank you, let's just really celebrate this. We have now created our new team for transforming systems together according to the recommendations of our Catalyst group. Great thanks to our Catalyst group. You all have been a part of that community voice that has continued to reach and to push and to urge this county board on as we have been working toward the vision of Ramsey County as a vibrant community where all are valued and thrive. Your work absolutely shows the value that you have for our community and for that vision. And I hope that you all see it shows the value that we have for you, for the strength of your dreams and hopes, and for the recommendations that you've made through your work and sweat and determination in this time to move us forward with a transforming systems together process. Thank you for that past work. Thank you for engineering the work that you will recommend doing with us as we begin the process with the Transforming Systems Together team and with the Burns Institute to move us into the future. And thank you finally for helping us in the way that you have with the testimony that you've provided today about this process, about the work you've done and the work that's coming forward. Thank you for helping us to mark the transformation in the way that you have. So the motion has passed. And again, thanks for being with us today. We're moving on to the balance of the agenda, although we could spend our whole day here in this discussion. Item number 18 has passed. I'd like to request that the board would allow us to move now to item number 17. There is a community member in the audience with us who's done some work with us in the past and is continuing to do some work that we have defined today in number 17 and we'll be voting on next. So I'd like to ask for a motion on number 17.
Yeah, I'd like to move item number 17, Madam Chair.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you very much for the motion and the second. I'm going to call on County Manager O'Connor asking if in the audience we would have Ann Berry and also our community member to share with us today the work that we're doing in parent mentoring.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, I'll go directly to Director Ann Berry, who can kick it off for our special guests for the second time being special today.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you, Ryan. Simply, I wanted to take a moment to think about the conversation you had last week about community navigators and service redesign. And just to let you know that this work has been underway. Lorene has been wonderfully patient, working with us for almost a year, but she can talk specifically about the proposal. But this is an example of if we're going to advance race equity in Ramsey County, we are going to have people who have been impacted by our work, in this case, the child protection system, the harm that happens every time a child is removed, that if those who are impacted aren't part of the work, then it's not real work. So I want Lorene to talk a little bit about this proposal, because it is a way for people to navigate an almost impossible system. So thank you, Lorene.
Thank you.
Welcome, Ms. Randall Wade.
Once again, hi. Thank you, Commissioners, Madam Chair. It's been a long time coming with this work. This program's concept started back in 2006. And then it didn't go too far, and then it came alive again in 2012. Mitchell Hamlin's Child Protection Clinic believed in me and asked me to write this program. And so I wrote the program with the understanding that parent mentors are parents from the community who have had child protection cases where they were either reunified with their children or some permanency outcome happened in their family. And that they would be able to mentor parents whose children are in out-of-home placement and walk them through this difficult system and help them to navigate it with understanding court language, understanding how to be a better parent, how to understand what the county is saying, because you all work for the county, but I know you know your language is just confusing. And so the language is confusing, the court system is confusing, and that in some terms detours parents from fighting for their children. So parent mentors come along the side. And I can say since we started this work in 2015, over 300 children have been reunified with their families. And so I'm grateful we're in 4 counties, but Ramsey County is my home and where I live and where I've raised my children at. We're in 4 counties throughout the state, and the hope and goal is to be a statewide program. And with this contract here that Ramsey County has given us the opportunity to have, I hope that other counties will see this and be able to model, because Ramsey County is in the forefront. But I hope that a lot of children and families will have some sort of permanency outcome, some sort of parenting education, some sort of understanding about a system that they can work hard and then have a passion to want to do this work, to come along and be a parent mentor. This not only creates a better community, but it creates work for others because there's compensation for parent mentors. It creates jobs for them, and it creates a better community. And so with that being said, I'm just going to leave it there, but I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful for Ann and all that she's done over the past year to get Minnesota One Stop for communities to this point. So thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that journey with us and for highlighting the work that we can do as people move to that next best point in their lives, helping to share the experience of others so that others can move also beyond. I want to just say thank you so much to you, Ms. Lorraine Randall Wade, and to also Ann Berry for the work that you've done in ushering this work into Ramsey County. We look so forward to the well-being and health and growth of our families. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just one additional comment, if I could add as well, from a systems side of how this work has come together, because these big puzzle pieces sometimes can get lost along our way. I know for me that can be a challenge to step back up. And so the program Ms. Randall Wade just described, if you read the request for board action, also aligns with our work then at a national level, trying to work with Casey Family Programs, which started about 4 years ago, alongside our partnerships at the same time with the Casey Annie E. Casey Foundation and juvenile justice work and deep end reform, as well as the Burns Institute for the deeper systemic work. And this vision of trying to knit together multiple partners at both a national level with a board with a vision, mission, and goals that aligns with that work, and then committed local leaders like Ms. Wade here to talk about how it all comes together. I think it's a real neat moment to see that in a number of different spots today on the agenda, and I just wanted to make sure we recognize that it's in those broader networks that we're able to build both local solutions and ensure that this work can go beyond, hopefully, Ramsey County.
Thank you for pointing that out, and I know that that's not lost on board members at the table who've been working through the years to help lift this work up and make the connections across our system. Thank you again to all of you. And now we're at the point of moving forward this request for board action. I do see a hand from Commissioner McGuire. Let me call on you first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And County Manager was starting to talk a little bit more about just my question that I have. I'm so excited about this work. It's so important, and just thanks to all of those that are involved. And I couldn't, be more happy to move this forward. I'm curious, is this this is a single source agreement with with the Minnesota One Stop, and then is this all the work that they're going to do? Are they combining with other funding that they're getting from other places? And I'm just wondering if we're going to be, are we the sole source for this particular effort? And I just want it to be bigger, so I'm just sort of curious where it's at and about how many families do we think we'll be able to serve. So, and maybe these questions are yet to be answered, but just a little more on that.
Thank you. I don't know if Ms. Wade has left the front. I'll call on County Manager O'Connor, knowing this work has been going on for some time. Right. County Manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioner. Ms. Randall Wade and Ms. Berry are coming back up to hopefully answer Commissioner McGuire's question.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. And once again,
So to Madam Chair and to Commissioner McGuire's specific question, this is a single source because the work that Lorene is doing is really not being done by anybody else. And so that's how it was approved to be that sort of a contract. We will also be, because we're going to be receiving Title IV reimbursement, that's foster care reimbursement, on every time an attorney is appointed for families in the child protection systems. That was all levy previously. That will now be matched by DHS funds or state funds. We will now be able to use those funds for the mentor program. So we really are extending our reach beyond the parent attorneys to community navigators to support families. Again, those are the resources to support that, and that's why it's a single source. I hope I answered those two questions. I think Lorene is in a better position to talk about how many families will be able to serve to get started.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I believe in the first year, we are looking to serve roughly around 50 families. We've been doing this long enough that we kind of have a metric. But for the Ramsey County contract, it is single sourced for African American families only, but we have some small funding from some other places that helps to provide supports to all families throughout Ramsey County and in the three counties that we're in. So I hope that answers your question.
I really appreciate that. I think it's a great start, and to all of those families that you're going to be able to help, this will be obviously transformational and life-changing, and it will help in so many ways. So thank you for that. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so we are ready for the vote on this request for board action. There has been a motion, a second. We've had our discussion. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ortega?
Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Fretham?
Aye.
Mas Castillo?
Aye.
McDonough?
Aye.
McGuire?
Aye.
Carter?
Aye, and thank you very much. That motion has passed, and we're going back now to the top of the legislative agenda to item number 7 that was pulled. I believe that was Commissioner McGuire.
That was me.
Oh, I'm
Chair
sorry.
Carter.
Commissioner Fretham.
Do we need a motion before discussion starts? Yep.
Yes,
I move
please.
approval.
And I'd like
And
to
I second. Let Commissioner Manis Castillo can second.
All right, thank you. We've had a motion and a second, and we're now in discussion. Thank you.
Yeah. So this request for board action would amend our state legislative platform to incorporate the overarching goals put forward by the Minnesota People of Color and Indigenous Caucus to make efforts to reform and rebuild public safety. So we've pulled out the high-level supports. They have a 19-point checklist of bills and proposals that began being heard earlier this week over the weekend. And I think Jen O'Rourke can speak more about that. I wanted to say that yesterday I was able to join the Lieutenant Governor and several other suburban moms who were sharing experiences and listening about instances of police brutality and harassment for their children and their families. And that this is an issue that is not just for the people who live in Minneapolis or St. Paul, but this is something that we care about in the suburbs and across Minnesota as well. And in fact, people in greater Minnesota are actually more likely to be killed by a police officer, according to Lieutenant Governor's comments yesterday. So this isn't just a city issue, this is a statewide issue, and we want to amplify the voices of our legislators in the People of Color and Indigenous Caucus, provide our support to them, and affirm that we too want to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to be safe in their community.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Fretham, and I just might say thank you. You have brought this to us early on as this work was in formation. Thank you very much for raising the attention here and so that we have it on our agenda today. I have Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and just thanks to everyone involved in this issue. This is an issue that we've all, cared about, and we've been watching the legislative process on this. And I want to especially thank Representative Carlos Mariani, one of our Ramsey County legislators who chairs the Public Safety Committee. We had a great legislative delegation meeting on this topic and heard about all of these different issues. And we are standing by, as you've noted, and that we are standing by ready to support our legislators in this work, because we think it needs to be statewide and it needs to be work that we all do together. So thanks to everyone involved in moving these issues forward. They're crucial for the equity and justice in our community. So thank you.
Yes, and thank you so much to our legislative commissioners and to our team for the work that you've done to bring this forward. I believe then we are ready for the vote on this request for board action. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ortega?
Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Fretham?
Aye.
Modis Castillo?
Aye.
McDonough?
Aye.
McGuire?
Aye.
Carter?
Aye, and thank you very much. That motion has passed. And we're looking forward to the success of this work in our state, as well as setting an example for the national work that also needs to be done. I will turn to item number 8 and call on Commissioner Modis Castillo, was it, for the motion?
Nope, that's McGuire for that
You
one.
guys can tell I wasn't writing it down. Forgive me, Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is also an addition to our legislative platform, and I want to thank Maria Sarabia, our own equity director, who's brought this to us. The Cultural and Ethnic Communities Leadership Council was put into place by the legislature and was scheduled to sunset, this year. And so we're hoping that it gets in the bill, that that is removed and that it will continue on. And so it's part of the Human Services Bill that we really hope the legislature passes, but we wanted to get it as part of our agenda so that we could be staunch advocates as we are in special session now. And this is important work. I hope they don't have a sunset on it in the future. I hope it just continues on. This is great work that this Leadership Council does in our state, and I think it's great that we're able to support that effort of the legislators. And our Representative Marina Moran is the one carrying it in the House, and so we're supporting all of those efforts. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for the motion and the second. And is there further discussion on this item? Great. So,
Madam Chair, I should say Senator Hayden. I don't want to say just Rena Moran, but Senator Hayden from Hennepin County is the other co-chair, co-author.
Thank you so much. And this, I might just add, does reflect the kind of work that we are doing here in Ramsey County with our Transforming Systems Together team. Having these sorts of community engaged teams looking at all of our work can make such a big difference. And so this motion or this RBA in support of the legislative action would help to ensure that that does not end. We're ready for the vote. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ortega?
Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Fretham?
Aye.
Modis Castillo?
Aye.
McDonough?
Aye.
McGuire?
Aye.
Carter?
Aye. And thank you. The motion passes. Now I'm going to number 13. And as I recall, that should be Commissioner Reinhardt to make the motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I would move this item. It is the Ponds of Battle Creek and the undeveloped parcel at the Ramsey County Correctional Facility, the due diligence project. And I am very pleased with the way this is being put out here. It's because there's 2 parcels within this that I know that as a board we said we really wanted to make sure that we got the best use out of both parcels and how they work together. I wanted to also talk about the fact that when the presentation was made to the Maplewood City Council on this, that our staff did a great job in making sure that we were doing things in cooperation and in conjunction with the community engagement work that's being done there. I do want to make sure that we have, as this goes forward, the community engagement is listed here, the level of community participation, and it said underline all that apply. I'm not sure, and I kept thinking maybe I was missing a page, but apparently not. Anyhow, that we make sure that we are following through with that we are working in conjunction with the City of Maplewood, and that community engagement as part of this overall process, so that it's not do this and then, oh yeah, go to community after. And I know that the commitment has been made there, but I wanted to call that out specifically. And I do think that there is opportunity here when you talk about the racial equity impact in the service delivery. That is a part of everything that we do, as we've been talking all morning about that and how it works into each step, that every action that we take, there is an impact, and we know that. And I know that one of the things that's been talked about actually was the number of, especially children of color that are in the First T program at the ponds. But there's all kinds of different things that can go on here. It is an opportunity, and working in conjunction with the City of Maplewood, and I know that it's been important to our group as well, that we have them taking the lead in the community engagement. So I just want to make sure or re-emphasize how important it is for that partnership in moving forward, and the work that's been done to date, and just making sure that the City of Maplewood is aware of and working in conjunction, especially with the community engagement at the same time as we're doing this work. So I appreciate this, and am moving forward with it. So I think I already made the motion, but if I didn't, I'll do it now.
Second.
You did? I think the motion was made and there was a second already, Commissioner Matas-Castillo, I believe.
Yeah.
All right,
I just
calling on Commissioner Matas-Castillo.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm happy to second and support it as well. I just have a question, just because we're having such a great conversation about our transforming systems together, our racial equity and community engagement team. And so I wondered if in this process, if we will also align that community outreach with our racial equity team, because we know though this particular parcel is in Maplewood, it really does impact all the residents of Ramsey County as we're looking at how we invest in the future. And so I was just wondering, is that part of this process? I don't know if County Manager O'Connor could speak to that.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Matas-Castillo, thank you for the question. I think I would move away from is the Racial Equity and Community Engagement Response Team, which in many ways right now, and working with the Equity Action Circle, is doing a lot of work around COVID, in part because of what the Public Health Director cited today. I would move it away from that particular entity, not to say they won't be involved, but I would move it to the 21st Century Parks work more generally, which will involve similar principles of engagement. And I would say that the racial and health equity administrators leading research will help parks work to shape how we do strong community engagement in the community. So I don't want to draw a direct line to this work will simply go to the Racial Equity Community Engagement Response Team, but as part of the 21st Century Parks initiative that was moving forward in this budget as we build out our work around racial equity. We have a racial equity response team within each service team, right? And so there's a response team in the service team as well to help with that work. The answer is we will bring those same principles there. Whether research is the leader of that group or not, I don't have an answer for you on that right now.
Okay, can I just follow up with that, Madam Chair?
Thank you.
Well, I guess my concern then is that it would only be in the 21st Century Parks program, because as we're doing this due diligence, we're opening it potentially beyond something even more than a park. And so I guess I just want to make sure that as we do development in any department, that we are really taking a racial equity approach to every single aspect of it. And And I know we are, I just want to hear it that it's part of that process so that we, as we think of development or even a parcel of it, if it could be developed in another way, what does that do for our community and that their voices are also heard?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Modis Castillo, thank you for asking for that part. 21st Century Parks is both about parks, but also more broadly how we think about our community and leverage our green space. And so I think, there's an inlet there that does go beyond the traditional definition of park. However, the racial equity response team within the economic growth and community investment service team would be broader. It's not a parks related entity. It's a service team related entity that would involve the broader work of, for example, property management and other areas. And so at the Maplewood City Council, for example, it was not the parks director engaged in the conversation with Commissioner Reinhardt. It was the property management director was there for Ramsey County alongside the community economic development director. And so it'll continue to fall under the broader leadership of the deputy county manager and the full county as an organization. And I commit to you that we will not make it a department specific conversation, but a broader piece to that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for the question, and to the county manager for the extended response as well. And so we've had our discussion. I see no further questions or comments from commissioners. And so we are ready for the vote on item number 13. With the clerk, please call the roll.
Ortega?
Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Fretham?
Aye.
Modis Castillo?
Aye.
McDonough?
Aye.
McGuire?
Aye.
Carter?
Aye. Thank you very much, and the motion passes. We are down to number 19 on our agenda. I'm going to ask for a motion, not sure who pulled it.
Yes, that was me, Madam Chair. I would like to make a motion to approve this agenda item.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you for the motion and the second. Commissioner Fretham.
Modis Castillo, but that's all right.
I'm
We're on the
sorry.
team
Modis
together.
Castillo.
It's been a long
I can't always see where the voice is coming from. Thank
Totally
you.
okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just wanted to raise and talk about this particular area, having been deeply engaged in the work to provide services for our people in our community who are experiencing homelessness and the expansion of shelter to respond to our COVID response. We've worked really hard to increase our capacity, and with that requires that we need staffing to go with that. And so we have added staff, many of whom, and this is, as we've talked about racial equity in our work throughout today, that I really want to highlight what this action does is that we have increased staff. Many, in fact, most of them of our staff are people of color. They're, Black, Asian, and 67% of them being women, who often are putting themselves in potentially risky situations with the spread of COVID, because this is not something they can do remotely. They are on the ground working with people in the greatest need. And this appropriates money so that not only as we have hired them in a temporary situation, but we're providing benefits, because we need to make sure that they have access to quality healthcare and services as well as we're putting them in risk. And so there is often confusion from the community when we appropriate money for staffing, but I really want to call this out, is that we have hired, and some of the staff themselves are experiencing or have experienced homelessness. We did a really great job in how we're hiring people from the community, people of color, women, and now we're providing them the benefit, which really fits with our values at Ramsey County. There was some discussion earlier that I just want to address from the community about, should we be spending this money on staff, or can we invest it in other ways? And this money is related to our CARES Act funding. It has restrictions. It is temporary. It goes through the end of the year with benefits, and we need to make that investment in our community as well. So I just wanted to clarify that. We know we have a long way to go to end homelessness in our community, and we as a board collectively are really focused on doing that and are passionate about it for everyone, whether that is individuals, families, or youth, and we continue to do that work. And this is just one more step in which we're demonstrating our investment.
Thank you, Commissioner, for pulling this item to highlight those points. Commissioner McDonough?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, I want to commend the county manager for bringing this forward and for all the work that we're doing here. But I can't let this pass without continuing to call out that homelessness is not a local. The solutions to solving homelessness are not local. They're regional and they're statewide. And we've been asking for help regionally and statewide. We haven't gotten the responses that we've been hoping for. I hope they're going to come someday. We will, in Ramsey County, not let anyone suffer because of this. But we cannot keep solving this problem with local dollars and local resources. We need the region and the state to be a partner with us moving forward. Thank you.
I want to thank you, Commissioner McDonough, also. I see no further questions on this action, and so we are...
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. If I could underscore one point that the two previous commissioners just made about the financing plan here, I think it is important to put it in stark relief as we enter into the budget season and beyond for the board. So the funding here will carry us through the end of the year. We have no identified funding source at this time to avoid a fiscal cliff that would have come in January. You can do the math here to quickly see how fast the burn rate, for lack of a better term, for funding is locally right now to support these shelter operations that allow us to better space out and provide humane solutions to people in need of a place to sleep. And that is important work to be doing, and that's what the CARES Act was set up to do. Unless the federal and state government believe that the coronavirus will be gone by January 1st of 2021, this is an urgent ask for the idea that sustainable funding solutions that involve federal and state partners materialize rapidly. Otherwise, this county board will be left with unbelievably challenging discussions and choices as we near the end of the year. And I don't mean to say that to put a damper on this RBA, but I want to highlight that and put out the points. Commissioner Modis-Castillo and Commissioner McDonough have been working on this and pushing along with the rest of you. But I just wanted to bring that financing piece into stark relief.
Commissioner McDonough, did you have a follow-up? Excuse me.
No.
Thank you. And so we are prepared for the vote on this item, which will advance the work that we are doing in this pandemic emergency, realizing that it does not take us forward beyond the December 31st, January 1st timeframe. We're prepared for a vote on this request for board action for that purpose. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Ortega?
Aye.
Reinhardt?
Aye.
Fretham?
Aye.
Modis-Castillo?
Aye.
McDonough?
Aye.
McGuire?
Aye.
Carter?
Aye, and the motion passes. Thank you. We are on then to the next section in our agenda, which is a legislative update. I'll call on Commissioner McGuire.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And yes, the special session was gavelled in on last Friday, and they are working on issues. The CARES money, which is the federal dollars that is going to come through to our cities now and the counties with less than 500,000 people. It has been in debate in the House and Senate, and they did come up with a resolution that the money will go out to the cities and smaller counties. Any money that the cities are not able to use will then go to the counties, or in Ramsey and Hennepin County's case, will go to regions and Hennepin County Medical Center, which was a compromise since Hennepin and Ramsey County had already gotten a previous allocation. This was the compromise that was reached. The Senate was hesitant to give that money back to Hennepin and Ramsey County, which was unfortunate, but I think regions and Hennepin County Medical Center can use those dollars as well. The Senate bonding bill is on the floor today. It does include $8 million for our recycling and energy centers, so we're excited about that. Unfortunately, our other projects did not make it into that, other than funding $1.5 million for 35E and County Road J project. So that's just the Senate package, and that's a smaller bill. The House does have more of our projects in them, and so we hope in the compromise that they come up with that that we will do that our projects will do better. We passed several items of note today where we supported the public safety package, which I'm very excited about, and then the cultural leadership team provision. So they're getting work done, and we're not sure how long they're going to be in session. It's lots of talk about maybe they adjourn and we'll have to be called back into session for finishing things, or we're just not sure what they're going to be doing. So we'll be continuing to follow that this weekend, and see where things go. But as of right now, they're still in session, and we have Jennifer O'Rourke, I know, is in the audience. If anyone has any questions, or I don't know if Jennifer wants to add anything on anything that we've talked about. And I know Melissa Finnegan has been working hard in our leadership. Our legislative team has been working hard. So thanks to all of you for all of your work, because I know all of you have been involved in legislative advocacy. But I don't know if Jennifer has anything to add. I do believe she's in the chambers there. But
Jennifer O'Rourke is coming up to the podium at this moment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members around the table, or staff around the table. I'm definitely here for any questions before you. I think Commissioner McGuire and others have done a good job today of talking through a lot of our priorities, from the two RBAs to the bonding bill and the CARES money and whatnot. So I'll just stand for questions if anyone would have any.
Thank you very much. I do have a couple of questions here. We'll go to Commissioner McDonough for comments.
Yep. Thanks, Madam Chair. I'll bring this up here rather than in my report. The House and the Senate have both had hearings on our bill to extend the waivers, and it's being well received. We're still working with DHS because there's 5 county priority waivers that we'd like DHS to sign on to that they haven't signed on to yet. But we're working with them on that to get them included. But right now, Melissa's done some great work, and as has AMC staff. But right now, we're well positioned to extend the waivers so that we can continue to operate with the flexibility that we've had in the past. And again, I've done this every week, but Karen Saltis and Melissa have just done great work. Between Hennepin and Ramsey, we've been able to really help shape this at the AMC level.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you so much for your leadership on that, Commissioner McDonough, as well. Commissioner Fretham.
Yes, Jen, I know that, so one thing I forgot to mention when we were talking about the RBA to incorporate the Policy Caucus's safety and justice statements was that Sarah, Holly, and Prince helped us reach out to the research team and get some feedback on those proposals and engage with the community to ensure that moving forward with this made sense for us and was in line with our values. I know that that team also provided some feedback. Has that feedback been shared with those legislators, or what is the plan for sharing it with legislators?
Actually, thank you for that question, Commissioner. On Friday, the first day of special session, Melissa Finnegan from our team reached out to the posse members of the Ramsey County delegation, and then we copied, obviously, the rest of the delegation on that to let them know that this RBA on policing reforms and the other one was coming. So we'll follow up with them today, but they obviously know that that was in the pipeline, and we heard back from a few of them. So good feedback all around.
Great, and I just wanted to make sure that there was some feedback on specific proposals that our research team provided that I think would be helping them as they talk about those bills to recognize that while we support the goals, we might have some ideas for improving the legislation, and I want to make sure those get shared.
Thank you, Commissioner Fretham. Commissioner McGuire?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Jen, again for everything. Did I relay the adjournment issues appropriately? Do you have any other information on whether I've heard they're going to try and adjourn today too, or do you know any more about that, or they're hopefully not going to adjourn today? Do you know anything more about that?
Thank you, Commissioner, for that question. I don't have anything more recent or more up to date. If I was a betting person, I would guess that some legislators would like to adjourn on Thursday or Friday of this week, and some legislators would like to take this into next week, or even one of the rumors I heard was up until the 4th of July. So it's just...
And I should say not today, I meant Friday, right? I haven't heard anybody want to adjourn today, right? So, right.
Thank you very much, Commissioner McGuire. Commissioner Reinhardt?
I'm glad that you clarified that, Mary Jo. I was a little worried. It's like, what?
Sorry about that. Even when I'm like, oh, that's right, today isn't Friday, today's Tuesday. Sorry about that.
Anyhow, but I know it's been said before, but I really want to give kudos to Commissioner Fretham for all the work that she has done with the legislative proposals before us today. I know that she was very instrumental in bringing that language forward and improving really what was being considered, or moving forward with those police reforms, and really the racial equity issues that are in our justice system, the inequalities that are in our justice system. And so I just wanted to give a special thank you to Commissioner Fretham for her leadership on this.
Thank you, and a ditto. I want to just check in with Commissioner McDonough in case that is a continuing or a second. Thank you. In that case, we will move on. Thank you, excuse me, Commissioner McGuire, for the legislative report. And I should check in with you in case there are any closing comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unless Jennifer O'Rourke has anything, I think we'll just keep following what they're doing and hoping that they get a lot of our work done. So we'll be continuing to follow the things that they're doing. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Also, Jen, appreciate your work there. And all of the work that is happening and representing us at the legislature, including Melissa, and all from our departments as well. So we've had our legislative report, and next on our agenda, we have county connections from the county manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, as I mentioned earlier, I want to start with a brief update on our second overlapping emergency period right now related to social unrest, just to give you a sense of spending and the programmatic response in a little greater detail. We've expended or obligated spending for approximately $100,000 to respond to that emergency response. Unlike with the CARES Act, there's not a direct appropriation of any money yet, so we're tracking it. That's something that I want to just make sure we stay aware of. And quite frankly, relative to the spending in COVID, it feels small. However, as I talk through the three areas, the funding matters a great deal as infrastructure on the ground across three areas that we previously discussed. About half of that money was related specifically to engaging trusted community partners during hours in which a curfew was not in effect, around the idea of healing and trauma and de-escalation of violence in community with members. And that work mattered immediately. I can give you the one example of we had severe storms rolling in during a day of significant large protests that had all been peacefully done, but there's this concern about making sure everybody stays safe, and a challenge in how do you ensure that messages can be transmitted from authorities with weather information to individuals on the ground. And you can't just show up in a Ramsey County baseball cap and have that message take hold, right? particularly a moment of significant institutional distrust. And so it was because of leaders in our community whom we were working with in partnership, we were able to ensure that people were aware of changing conditions on the fly. In moments like that would be one example. Our initial response in that emergency period has now moved toward the Healing Streets model of work that was already underway to get established. We've been in deep conversation with the city about ramping up the part of the work that they are most hoping to see, as they were partial financial contributors to the Healing Streets model in the budget that was proposed this year, and that work is moving forward there. So it's really moved from emergency to the process that had already been laid out in the budget to move forward. Two other areas related to social unrest where there was work being done. Community food pop-up sites was one specific area that had come up. We allocated up to $25,000 in funding for logistics, administrative needs. So logistics are things like storage space for larger capital items, administrative needs, fees for receiving donations, support for partner organizations and their costs, technical assistance to support future planning and development of partnerships, and any other outstanding costs incurred during that initial response and investigation of community pop-up sites. It was important to bring some organizational backbone to what started as these individual community efforts. And right now, the Lexington and 94 site is the crown jewel, I would say, in terms of both the largest and the most frequented by community partnerships. We are working with that site, with Miss Webby. In particular now, the Wilder Foundation had expressed an interest in being a partner and helping support. And so Ramsey County, in partnership with the Wilder Foundation, is helping at that site as a part of the back-end logistical support. We do not want to take the site over. We don't want it to become a Ramsey County or a Wilder site. We want it to be a community scene site. But now we are working shoulder to shoulder, and Wilder in particular, being in close proximity, is working with Ms. Webby to ensure that the logistical and administrative support is there. We continue to work to look at other sites across the region as well, as we figure out what might stay in sustainable spots, what have popped up and gone away. But that was the second piece of work. And then the third relates to the business recovery piece. Phase one was really the initial assessment and listening to ensure businesses originally had access to board up buildings on those nights of concern. Your action allowed for us to help ensure that all businesses in community were able to do that and get access to supplies. That was part of the challenge, was even having access to things like plywood. Developing a way to then organize and communicate rebuilding efforts. We did that in partnership with St. Paul. There's been a town hall, or we're in the process, of organizing a town hall that will be specific around the business recovery and needs that exist. We've been targeting specifically Black, Indigenous, people of color, immigrant-owned or leased businesses as a part of that work, knowing that in many cases in the cultural corridors where the most damage was done, they were most impacted. There's a stage two around rebuilding and revisioning with those sites that involves community economic development, as well as PED at the City of St. Paul, Planning and Economic Development, the St. Paul Area Chamber, the East Team, DEED, Greater MSP. So it's a partnership effort on this rebuilding piece. We're also looking at land banking, land acquisition, and funding agreements to ensure businesses are preserved and not displaced. That's part of that broader effort underway. And finally, there's an intentional focus on community healing and system overhaul. Where do we go from here? How do you not just try to fix a broken window, but think more systemically about conditions and ways that the county can be a part of the long-term work? So in general, Madam Chair, on the emergency response for the social unrest, which is set to expire at the end of June, and as of right now, I do not foresee a circumstance in which we'd be asking to extend that emergency period, or I would be bringing you a request. But this was the work in flight that will continue throughout this month and have tails beyond it. Before I go into the rest of my county connections, because it's kind of a one-off item, I'll pause in case anyone has any specific questions on what was just presented.
Thank you. I have no hands raised at this time. We'll just pause for a moment. I suggest you move on.
Thank you. So a few other areas where I wanted to give a call out to staff that have been doing some excellent work. Diedrich Jenkins, Jen McConnell, and Natalie Uzong are outstanding supervisors in our hotel shelter program, all come from Children and Family Services within our Social Services Department. I just want to give them a shout out for providing the support of shelter staff, organization with our partners, and compassion to our shelter guests during the height of the chaos on a few of the nights early on with the social unrest. And it's one of those pieces where it was hard to get workers to work. It was hard to figure out how to organize and get good information. And these three individuals really shone through, and getting to hear on the ground about staff from the community, in our community, as a part of the community, working with and helping to lead on those chaotic nights. I just want to say thank you to Diedrich, Jen, and Natalie here today. I also wanted to acknowledge Maria Sarabia, our Diversity, Inclusion, and Organizational Development Director, and her entire team over in the Human Resources Department for organizing last week's virtual countywide leadership group. This is entering our 7th year of countywide leadership group convenings. These started as a convening of approximately 100 to 125 leaders in Ramsey County, mostly at that time all formal leaders by designated title. It's expanded. We had 270 people, I think I saw, at the height of this countywide leadership group meeting on Zoom at the same time as a part of this convening last Thursday morning. We shortened it from a half day to 2 hours, but we decided it was important to find a way to continue on and continue to cultivate leadership, even with the challenge of not being able to convene together. There were, I believe it was 9 breakout sessions. I might be wrong on the number, but we started as a large group, and I had an opportunity to speak to our group there, and then in a smaller convening, I was followed by Mother Atum, who engaged with a number of other leaders across our county to talk and provide the keynote address. It was a powerful keynote. In her own words, where she opened was, in 2008, I worked with the county and felt harmed. I never thought I would work with this organization again, was her opening comments. And yet, as she's delivering this message, she's delivering it to 270 of our leaders, which led to a message around how we can build from moments like that and learn, and our responsibility as an organization to always be reflective as a part of that work and the hard journey that entails. These breakout sessions then that happened, you would be whisked away magically from the large conversation happening into a breakout room with 33 people. I joked that it was the fastest I've ever seen us break up into smaller groups, and so I might use this as the new tactic all the time. But these sessions were all focused on healing and care for yourself and others while managing through this crisis. Our staff are under great and immense stress, and we see it every day. And our staff of color feel a lot coming their way from communities as well as individuals. Our white staff want to be allies and supporters as well, and are struggling to find their own space in that at times. And as an organization, as the most diverse government organization in the state, there's just so much happening around us, layered with COVID and then George Floyd and the aftermath from that it's a really challenging time for community and for all of you, and for our leaders. And so we took time to have these sessions around taking care of yourself and others. There are final materials that are going to be posted online. The sessions were recorded. I will make sure you get a link to see some of that as well. And I got to tell you, it was a really powerful 2 hours for myself and the other 33 people I spent time with in the small group, as well as the large convening. And credit goes to Maria and the entire DIOD team for taking the time to figure out a way not to say we have barriers to doing this, but we're going to find a way to still make this happen, even when we can't all sit in the same room shoulder to shoulder. It was a real uplifting moment in an otherwise challenging week. 2 final updates: the 2020 census and voter engagement small contracts that we've been doing in the area of supporting outreach and engagement efforts by community organizations, particularly in historically undercounted and underrepresented communities. These have been paying dividends as we go. I got to sign these small agreements this week as a part of that ongoing work that you've been supportive of. The list of organizations runs A through R. So there were a number of organizations across this community, directly boots on the ground. But it's another sign of how staff here are working with community to put boots on the ground during such an important season around census outreach and voter engagement. And I just want to thank everybody for their key role in that, and for Jolie Wood for navigating these contracts with community providers through the process. That can be challenging as well. And finally, I wanted to highlight that we have a new intern who's going to be working in our justice. It's a justice transformational internship. This individual will be working close to Zachary Hilton on a lot of our adult justice reform. His name is Abdul Aziz. He's a second-year graduate student pursuing a master's of science in sociology at Minnesota State Mankato, with an emphasis on criminology and social deviance. He expects to graduate in the spring of 2021. He serves as a student trustee on their board of trustees, and he's been heavily involved in a lot of different spaces, including in the governor's office. It's real exciting to bring another individual into our work around adult justice reform, and it's a part of those building blocks we're putting in place on that reform side. And I want to thank Zach Hilton for leading the process of bringing in another talented individual to work with us through this justice transformational internship work. With that, Madam Chair, I conclude my comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much for County Connections. I'm going to just check and halt for a few moments to see if there are questions or comments regarding what you have shared with us today. As we prepare to move on in our agenda, our next phase of the work is going to be updates from all of our commissioners. I see no questions on County Connections. I want to, again, thank you, County Manager, and we will begin our updates, starting with Commissioner Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I'd like to say that we've had a meeting this past Friday of the Food Distribution and Basic Needs Committee, and the staff is working very hard, as Ryan has already alluded to making sure that we connect with all of the school districts. They're all different. They all have different barriers to overcome, but we are moving forward on that. I feel very good about where we're at. The other is with the grants, we're making sure they get down to the community level that we spoke about. Commissioner Trista Mara Castillo has made a very good valid point and advocated very well for making sure that we get those grants to the grassroots level as much as possible, and we're moving forward on that. On another note, I'd like to share with the board a letter that was received by the Indian community. As you know, with the Riverview Corridor, we've done very extensive community engagement on our project. We have 4 contracts that we are reviewing, bidders that came forward, and we made sure that the American Indian community is participating in that. So if you permit me, I will read just a small piece of the letter sent. This is from Cheyenne St. John of the Louis Sioux Indian community. Thanks for the opportunity to participate in the review. It has been the first time that I have seen a county invite tribes to the table for project planning at this level. Lower Sioux appreciates the collaborative approach and looks forward to future opportunities to participate. Cheyenne St. John, Lower Sioux Indian Community, Tribal Historic Preservation Officer. So that was a nice letter. We worked hard to engage with that community, and they slowly but surely are becoming part of the process on the Riverview Corridor. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Ortega. I'll call on Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, the census work has been brought up a little bit anyhow. I'd like to report that Ramsey County now has a 74.4% response rate. Minnesota is still #1 in the country with 70.6% self-responding. St. Paul is #4 in the country of cities over 300,000, and they are at 69.8%. And the national average is 60.9%. So we are doing some very creative and innovative work, and I want to call out all the partners. It's really been and continues to be a group effort in trying to come up with some pretty fun and exciting ideas and trying to move this forward into the next phase. So we still have work to do, especially in those areas where they are traditionally underrepresented or underreported, actually. Also like to mention that the EPA's Local Government Advisory Committee and the Revitalizing Communities Work Group that I chair for the EPA, we had a meeting, and the topics that were discussed, which won't surprise anyone here, knowing me, the topics were sustainable food management and anaerobic digestion efforts. And so really zeroing in on what we can make a difference on and, hopefully get some federal leadership on these issues, and have actually, so moving it forward. The Geospatial Advisory Council Outreach Committee met and are preparing an article for the Association of Minnesota Counties about the valuable geospatial data resources available to counties, both from the civil unrest and from COVID-19, and how critical that has been. And these are some of the unsung heroes, actually, that are providing the data so that we can get the resources to the folks that really need them in a timely fashion. And they do great work, and so trying to highlight some of that work, I think, is important. The Clean Water Council, we had actually a couple of things happening there. Yesterday, we had our virtual field trip at Forever Green for the University of Minnesota. It was incredible, the work that's being done there, and being able to see that and doing a virtual field trip was not easy to pull together, but Paul Gardner, who is the executive director for the Clean Water Council at the PCA, and others, many others through the University of Minnesota and beyond, were involved in making that happen. But there's some really incredible progress that's being made with forever cover crops that have value to them. And that work is being done right here in Minnesota. And it's actually being noted worldwide. I wanted to, this was not this last week, but the week before, the BOMA June meeting was a webinar on the Hillcrest Redevelopment Project, and Monty Hillman from the St. Paul Port Authority walked through some of the issues and expected timelines. One of the things that was brought up, which probably shouldn't have been a surprise, but was, are the contaminants that are a much larger and bigger concern than originally thought, many times over the acceptable levels for either residential or light industrial. So they are really being creative and looking to find options to address the contamination problem. One of the things that is important to us and to others is the energy sustainability is a very important part of this project. And the timeline right now, you never know how things are going to adjust, but would be, they walked through the timeline, but the expected construction would be in 2022. The St. Paul Chamber of Commerce had a webinar for the Maplewood portion of that, and also the White Bear Area Chamber of Commerce, and really working through some of the issues in reopening. And I reinforced the fact that even with reopening, there are responsibilities in keeping people safe as things reopen, and the masks and the social distancing and the stay at home if you can do your work from home to do that, and the things that we've put in place for our own staff, but others as well, and reinforcing that, and that was acknowledged as we were talking through that. And finally, I have some really cool news from the Federal Transit Administration. Last Thursday, the FTA announced a $1.25 million competitive grant to support transit-oriented development with the planning along the Rush Line bus rapid transit corridor. So very exciting. It's something that is so important in keeping the community involved and really looking at how can we work with the diverse communities and the diverse needs along the line, and really establishing a vision for the future development. That in many ways just really shows how much this investment is going to improve the economic viability and moving forward with this. So We've put a substantial amount of money into this and will continue to do that. And this really pays off when you have the economic development that comes along with it. I really want to thank the strong collaboration between Ramsey County, the Metropolitan Council, the FTA, and every municipality along this line. So without the partnerships there, we wouldn't be in this spot of being able to move forward. And this is a great hurdle to have gotten through, and really, again, appreciate everyone's support in moving it forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, for your update. And Commissioner Fretham.
Thank you. I'd like to again thank Sarah Hawley and Prince Corbett and the entire research team for their engagement and feedback on the RBA today. And I hope to have the opportunity to engage with you again soon on future issues. I would like to call out some amazing youth up in the northern Ramsey County suburbs. Brisa Sloshuda, Samuel Mespin, Jake Rosenow, Sarah Conlon, Brandon Berg, Jocelyn Landwehr, and Gady Bindula organized a fantastic Awaken the Suburbs March for Justice this weekend from Shoreview City Hall to Arden Hills City Hall. It was a massive gathering of folks showing up, just incredible opportunity to walk together. I was telling Chair Carter at one point, we looked back and it looked like you were standing in the midway in the middle of the state fair. There were so many people there. And when we reached the Arden Hills City Hall, they had numerous youth speakers stand up and talk about their own experiences in our community with racism, in the education system, with police, within housing, and how all those concerns, it's really incumbent upon us to act. So I was really honored to be a part of it. Glad to bring my children with to be there. It was a beautiful, peaceful protest. There was singing, and people were supported, and it was wonderful. And these youth pulled it all together, and I am just so impressed and grateful for them and our community. They really are going to be our next generation of leaders. I want to call that out. And they even got mentioned in the Washington Post over the weekend. It was a big of an event. In other news, we were able to hold our virtual meeting on water issues in the northern suburbs on Tuesday. We had around 70 participants at any given time in this virtual meeting, so that was really exciting. Great presentations from Peter Boulay from the DNR as a climatologist. We had involvement from our Ramsey County Parks and Public Works Department, as well as the 3 watershed district water management organizations with Plamo, Rice Creek, and Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District. We had representatives from Shoreview and Badness Heights talking about the work they were doing, and we had an opportunity for residents to ask questions. We had an opportunity to gather additional information about what they'd like to hear more about and learn about next time. There is an interest in having another Q&A opportunity, a lot of questions, but a lot of really good information shared. So thank you to all the partners that have engaged with us and that are continuing to engage with us to do this work in a way that's transparent and accountable to the community. And then just a final update, the Financial Implications Subcommittee, a lot of our work got sidelined by the civil unrest. We're working to try to move forward and engage with additional cities and school districts at this point. So hoping to have more information about next steps in the next week or two. For our partners that haven't had a chance to respond and provide feedback, that's still open, and we're constantly looking for your additional information and support. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I could read your lips. You were muted, but I heard you calling on me. Thanks. And I had to quickly adjust scenery because in our whole house with kids and both of us working from home, we're time sharing the only quiet room. And so my time was up. So I apologize. You're now in my chaos of my living room. But I just wanted to share a couple of updates. I wanted, County Manager O'Connor mentioned the very large food drive distribution on Lexington and University, but I also wanted to really call out there are several smaller pop-up food distribution sites that have been organized by the community that are really important because many people don't have access to get to that particular location. And so especially our district councils in the city have done a great job, and the Phelan area neighbors are doing a really great job distributing food. And so we want to appreciate everyone in our community and those smaller drives that are not just food, but also things, because pharmacy access, especially in the Hamlin Midway, has been reduced. And so things like requests for condoms and things for sex ed that our public health is also partnering with is really important. And the things you don't think of until you don't have access. And so those contraceptions and Plan B and all of that stuff that the community is organizing. So just wanted to give a shout out there. I also wanted to share that I had an update over the weekend and a tour of the CAP RW, so our Community Action Partnership building, which is on University, that sustained very significant damage. That building is closed. As you know, not only does it serve our CAP community and low-income folks as the headquarters for Head Start in our area, but it also has other service providers, so homeless folks. It was an outreach center there, our partnership with the FAS. That building cannot reopen. It received extensive damage in the unrest, where the sprinkler heads were busted off. And so the sprinklers ran for about 11 hours before they could get that water turned off. So it had some small fire damage, some theft, but mostly it has significant water damage. And so we're working really hard to be able to reopen, but it is a significant blow to our community. And so Senator Smith met us there on Saturday, and we were able to spend quite a bit of time with Senator Smith talking through and looking at that facility, but also our whole community to think about, how do we continue to do this work and rebuild when our communities are so drastically impacted. So they are working to provide services remotely, but it is a really specific need in our community. So just wanted to share that information. Senator Smith did share that even though we hear Congress is working on police reform, just like we are at our state legislature, that it is a time that we can't just focus on one thing and that we need to address. And so they're still working on both COVID response and helping us to get resources for this disaster recovery as well in our communities. And then just wanted to give a special shout out to our team from Public Health that are working at the COVID testing sites. I know Commissioner Fretham and I both had the opportunity to volunteer, and Darren Tolbert from Commissioner Reinhardt's office has been there a lot, directing traffic, standing outside, and it is such an amazing operation, very fluid, people in and out. And the team on the ground is really incredible in how they're organizing and getting things done. And so great shout out. Our public health department is top notch. We can be very, very proud of the work that they are doing. I will say, just from my own observations of 6 hours of, managing the line and checking people in, it was, it's a free testing site, but most people are actually not coming from the neighborhood. So, as they're giving us their address, I did see people as far away as Wisconsin, New York, and Washington, D.C., and California that came through the site. Many people from Minneapolis and our surrounding suburbs, but there's not a lot of folks from St. Paul directly, even though we were at the Jimmy Lee Rec Center. And so I really, really, really want to encourage the folks in the neighborhood. The site was selected particularly to make sure that folks had access to that site, that you can walk up, even though it's considered a drive up. There are accommodations made for walk up testing. And if you weren't able to get an appointment, as Kathy Adine, the public health director, said, we will accommodate. So please come and get tested. It's really important, and we want to make sure that the people most potentially impacted have that access as well. And then one last thing, the Even though we've got all this work, people are working a lot, and our Public Works Department is still working. And so our reimagining Rice Street, which is really incredibly important work in a community, continues to move forward, and they are able to do that outreach virtually. And so you can submit comments and your thoughts about Rice Street directly online, and a thanks to our Public Works Department in that area. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Commissioner McDonough.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I've given my reports throughout the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And just a few things here. I just want to give a shout out to our ongoing Suburban Ramsey Emergency Coalition group that's meeting. Commissioner Fretham and I have been involved with that group, just helping give them updates on what Ramsey County is doing. And they're a group of civic organizations in this northern suburban area that really wants to do good work. And I'll give a shout out to a number of them who are sewing reusable gowns for our Ramsey County Care Center. And I said, reusable gowns? And they said, yes, because all of the ones you can buy now are all disposable. But when you're not dealing with COVID patients, if you can get reusable ones, you can use them, you can use them over again. So it's an environmental benefit, and they can get gowns that are cotton. So we have a number of the coalition is making gowns for our care center. So good shout out to them. We had a Ramsey County League of Local Governments board meeting, and I just want to let you know that they're very interested in, finding out issues that we all want to deal with, and we've been brainstorming and, getting feedback, and they'll be sending it out to the cities and school districts and all of us on, the topics that we want to cover. And of course, it's around race equity, mental health, continues to be transportation, continues, to be the issues that housing and homelessness. So they're going to do part of our meetings will be on sharing on a topic, and then the other half of the meetings we're going to make on information sharing, because we can be a more powerful group if we come together and talk about, how did we handle the curfew situation? How do we handle these things? How can we be supportive to each other and share information? So I know that we're pursuing more on those fronts. So I'm proud of that organization, which does have a lot more potential, I think. I want to recognize I've been doing some of the AMC district meetings just because I can do them on Zoom and I can hear what's going on in other parts of the state. So our Association of Minnesota Counties has 10 districts, and they've been meeting to give county reports. And I will say that every county sends us their support. And I just want to read to you from District 7, and many of us know Jack Kohlers, and they're working on a more formal note, but he says, I would like to propose that we in District 7 offer our support to our friends and neighbors in Hennepin, Ramsey, and Metro counties in their efforts to rebuild their communities, as we all join in changing the systemic nature of racism and its impact on people of color in Minnesota and the USA. So I just thought that was really touching, and that people around the state are wanting to support that, and they know they have their own work to do as well. So I wanted to share that with you. And my last comment on what went on this week is I want to give recognition, and we've already done a moment of silence, so I won't ask for one of that, but we did lose a champion in the criminal justice field and the racial equity field, and it was in former Hennepin County Attorney Tom Johnson. I had the pleasure of working with Tom and actually his wife on civic education, but Tom was a fierce criminal justice advocate and really fought to reduce racial disparities and worked tirelessly for victims of sexual abuse. He was the director of the Council on Crime and Justice, which provided amazing information on statistics, which we needed. We need so much and continue to need. And he also has been on the board of the Minnesota Justice Research Center. He's just been such an advocate, and he died after a courageous battle with prostate cancer. And we just want to recognize his work and just give condolences to his family and friends. The last item is I just want to say there's coming up is we're having an AMC board meeting on Friday. So just want to give everyone the heads up on that. And our active living Ramsey communities will have a Zoom meeting on Monday, and we're going to be talking about ways that we can work in racial equity within our active living work. And also, happy Father's Day to all the fathers this Sunday. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm done.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Commissioner. I really appreciate all of the updates. There has been so much reporting on work that's going on with and in and on behalf of our communities. And indeed, this is a momentous time. There is so much that has been a part of this agenda. We've seen a lot of movement forward in the work that Ramsey County is doing, in particular with all of our communities. I would like to report just on a couple of things. First of all, the work along Dale Street. The Dale Street Bridge is continuing. The east side of the bridge is now being constructed, as it had been taken down and prepared. Remarks in the community about how wide it is and, what an incredible project this will be continue. And I'm thankful for the work that is going on there. I had the opportunity to participate also in a meeting with the American Indian community called by the city of St. Paul's mayor, and to hear from so many in the community who are coalitioning around the work to support both the COVID-19 response as well as the response to businesses and community members who have been impacted by the civil unrest of recent days. So thank you to everyone in our community doing the work that we need to recover and to move forward. I also want to report on an incident that has occurred in our community, and that as chair of the board, you have allowed me to work to manage. It is an important incident to report on because of all that we have said, not just in this meeting, but because of all of the work that we are doing to encourage Ramsey County as a community where all are valued and thrive, because of the impact of the systemic racism that we have seen, because of the changes that we are attempting to make in our county and together with communities such as the Transforming Systems Together group that we have appointed today. And mostly because a lot of attention is being placed on the police and police reform. And it is very important that we are able to accomplish changes in that system and across all of our systems, which unite together as a system. In particular, our community, what our community will tolerate, what our community is working to bring about in our midst, will form the foundation of everything that we are able to do as we work toward transformation. And so it's important that we are linking hands together, not just for the things that we see that are obvious, like police reform, but to reform the ways in which people are treated in our community as well. And that requires us linking to community members, to systems, to businesses, all of us holding our hands together to make sure that change that we want is occurring. So I'll just share that a week and a half or a little more than so ago, Ramsey County, a city employee who was working on contract to help Ramsey County provide shelter for homeless was threatened with a gun after parking in a hotel valet spot. And when unsuccessful in requiring the individual to move, a hotel employee escalated the circumstance to a dangerous and egregious level by calling a hotel guest who pulled out a gun and demanded that the individual move. Fortunately, this situation is now in police hands. It's under investigation with felony charges filed and an arrest warrant issued. I want to just thank our city administrator and St. Paul's deputy mayor for having contacted the hotel immediately. On your behalf, I and the mayor of St. Paul have had the opportunity to speak with the hotel general manager and even with the corporate senior vice president. An apology to the individual and disciplinary action have been initiated. We are looking forward to hearing more from the corporate office about additional steps that are being taken, including the dismissal of the employee who was involved in causing this unfortunate and dangerous circumstance to happen. So realizing that this is not the first act of this sort, and knowing that it definitely had overtones of racial injustice, as the individual who was threatened with a gun was an African American male working for us on contract at the time. We have shared with the hotel our determination to speak up and speak out. They have shared with us their intolerance of such acts and have put a number of steps in place to ensure that this will not happen again. And we will be working with that hotel and with our business community to ensure that we recognize this does not simply happen in one incident, but that these are the sorts of incidents that have happened over and over again, and that sometimes we have ignored. You know, in our history, looking back, we know that from time to time we've simply grown exasperated or even have become accustomed and acculturated to these sorts of injustices, thinking that they are so big and so pervasive that we can't possibly end them. But we know, and we have begun in Ramsey County to hold hands together, that we are the community and that our actions together can in fact move us to a much better future where all are valued and thrive. As we work together to intolerate racial injustice and providing no cover or excuses to address these incidents together as these actions occur, and to create a different future is our goal and our objective. So I wanted to share that with you, to let you know that I'm thankful not only to our county manager and to the deputy mayor in St. Paul, but also to our chamber. B. Kyle, president of the chamber, has been working with us to address this issue and to look forward in how we address these issues in the future together with our business community. I also want to thank Sarah Holly and Prince Corbett, whose names have been mentioned before. Their leadership in the racial equity, community engagement response team, and even our Equity Action Council for the work, Equity Action Circle, for the work that they are doing with us, for the ideas that they have inspired, the suggestions as to how we address these incidents individually, and how we look forward in creating a proactive approach to ensure that all in our community and even visiting with us, businesses, residents, nonprofit organizations, and others, are walking this walk for transformation together. So again, I'm thankful that we're all able to be leaders together to encourage and to bring about that system of change, as we know that only with that sort of change can all truly be valued and thrive. So I am glad to share that with you, and I know that commissioners may have other comments that you would like to make. I see Commissioner McDonough. I would like to recognize you. Commissioner, please unmute.
Is that better? Yeah, I got mute on my headset. I have to remember that sometimes. Tony, thank you for your comments. Well said. And thank you for the update. I wanted to reinforce a couple of the things that you called out in your comments, because, you know, being aware of this from when it first happened, and being really concerned that responses and approaches would be very similar to in the past, to minimize, to find excuses, to justify blatant racial responses did not occur again. And I appreciate the efforts that it's not happening again, because in the end, we can attend all the protests we want. We can support the community with food drives and board up businesses and support businesses. But until we stand up and speak out, as you said, Tony, and call out the injustices, but even go farther, that we demand accountability for those injustices, no matter where they occur. And we push our partners, in this case, the hotel, to go probably way out of their comfort zone and probably for the first time really confront racist behavior on the part of from one of their employees in a way that they've never done before. I appreciate that and commend all the folks that have been a part of this. And this is only the first time, because this happens every day in our community, and we will need to continue to do this every single day. So thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Mas-Castillo.
Yeah, I just want to echo, Jim said it very well, is that, we are not resting on our laurels and making small statements, but we are taking bold and swift action. And I appreciate your work and the leadership to resolve this issue. I wanna also say that, if it isn't resolved, or not to the satisfaction of the individual harm or to the community, that, we either can take further action as a board and not spending resources at such places that act in acts of racism, right? Our financial resources with staff and contracts that, in a chain like a hotel, we need to show really strong impact and boycott those agencies as well as part of this response. And so I know we're not there yet, but I just want to put that on the table, is that we can take bold moves and initiatives, because we will not stand for racism in our community, not now, not into the future. And I know that collectively as a board, that's a commitment that we are standing for. And so I would support even bolder actions should we not feel the resolution. And just wanted to add that.
Thank you, Commissioner Matas-Castillo. We have taken a little time. It's been a little over a week and a half. And it has been a difficult conversation to have, as all of us know, that we are all culpable, and that in the past, we have not addressed these circumstances to the degree that we know we are working to ensure they do not continue. I just really want to recognize and thank this board and our staff leadership as well for the seriousness of our approach to transform systems. This is an example, knowing that we have to hold ourselves accountable for all in our community as we work to hold each other accountable together. And I am glad to report that a result at this moment is that this particular business has asked for a partnership with us, holding themselves accountable, taking themselves bold actions to address this issue, and asking for that partnership to work with us in the design of a future set of work that will engage our entire community. So I'm thankful to be able to report that today. And I also appreciate your encouragement and that of this board, that we would hold ourselves and others as accountable as we hold ourselves in the future. So again, I'm glad to make this report today. We will walk through this together with this business and with our community, and we will be able to report in the future the progress of our work together. Thank you so much for your attendance, for all of your attention, reporting, as we have passed resolutions today, as we have heard updates, as we have in particular addressed this theme of community engagement for transformation. I look forward to all of the work continuing and broadening within coming weeks, months, as we continue to meet together in this forum. And with that, then, if there are, no, Commissioner Matas-Castillo had her hand raised. That was from before. So thank you very much for your attendance today. And with that, our meeting is adjourned.